Okay. Hey guys, once again, this is Vince with Green Joe Coffee Truck, greenjoecoffeetruck.com, where I teach people how to build coffee trucks and just try to answer general coffee truck questions. So this particular video is, so this one I got a question on one of my forums that I run is, about a name and, whether or not it's a good buy and these type of things. So I'm not going to dive in too specifically on the machine. Really, I'd like to kind of focus on generalities so that the majority of the population can use that. But generally, what I'm looking for, this guy's like looking on Craigslist to see, if this, he's got a deal for an espresso machine. It's a two group for 1,200 or 1,250, I think is the exact. And so it's a two group machine. He's like, how do I know if this is good? And ideally, really to know it's good, you're going to have to run some hot water through that thing, meaning you're going to have to plug it in and pull a shot. Because what you don't know is whether or not you have a functioning pump or a functioning heating coil, or if any of your piping is, you have a clog or a leak. A leak might be a little bit easier to find, but clogs may not be may not be easy to find until you actually plug the thing in. So, I recommended that he either rent or pick up a generator. So, email the guy, find out what the plug looks like, and then see if you can get yourself a generator that has that plug so that you can plug it in. You might have to invest yourself into a pigtail or some type of extension cord that converts the plug into what the generator has. Whatever you need to do. It's a big investment. It's $1,000, so you might have to put in a little homework. But right out of the back, what I'm looking for when I look at a machine, the first thing I'm going to look at is the gauges, and to see if your both your pressure gauges are flat. So what I mean by that is that they're zeroed out. There shouldn't be any pressure inside a pressure gauge when the machine is not plugged into a pump or a line of water of any sort. So if you're not plugged into the city, or if you're not plugged into some gravity fed water, then there should be no reason for you to have pressure inside your line. So if you're showing a pressure gauge that has pressure, most likely what's happened is either the gauge is non-functional, and my first question is why the gauge is not functional. And what I found is with most espresso machines, people don't understand that if they freeze over that the pipes will break, and when those pipes break they generate pressure inside the line. That pressure of course hits the gauge, and then the pipe burst, and sometimes what will happen is that pressure gauge will remain showing that there's pressure inside the line. So that's going to be one of your first clues that this person has not maintained the storage of your espresso machine. If you store a machine in the cold, and the machine in the boiler, if the boiler is still full of water, then when that water freezes over, there's nowhere for that water to go. It expands, of course. We all know that water expands during the freezing process. So during that expansion, if you're in a closed system, then what's going to happen is the weakest part of that system is going to burst. And so it'll create like a leak if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, it's going to burst internally, and it's going to take out things like your pump, and you're looking at a nice sweet $500-600 fix if you put the pump in yourself. So that's the first thing I look at. Is I'll go in and I'll look at the gauges, and if the gauges are showing pressure inside your line, then right out of the gate you can be pretty sure that you're going to have some kind of problem with this espresso machine. So that's the first thing that you can look at from like Facebook Market or Craigslist or eBay pictures, and might be able to determine something there. And then the second thing I'm going to start looking at is things like the screens of the espresso machine to determine if this person has put in maintenance. So you got to change your screens out fairly regularly. You also have to change out the gasket that sits between your portafilter and the espresso machine. So when you go to put your portafilter into the machine, your portafilter it should come out at a 90-degree angle from your machine. But if that thing's canting all the way into 100 and 30-degree angle, it's way off to the side diagonally, then that lets you know that the gasket has not been changed, which will also let you know that this person probably didn't maintain their machine. And if they didn't maintain the machine, then there's going to be scaling inside the machine, which is like this buildup of like calcium deposits and stuff from water. And so typically it just lets me know the habits of the espresso machine owner. So habitually, what you want to be doing is you want to be back flushing the machine, which is where you put a chemical inside your portafilter to flush the machine to help remove some of the calcium out of a couple different components of the machine. And then every now and then you need to take the entire boiler out and flush that machine. So if this person is not changing their gaskets, they're not changing their screens, what's the chance they're removing their entire boiler? You know what I mean? It's probably pretty slim. So most likely you're going to be dealing with a person that's not keeping up on the maintenance. It's kind of like, imagine if you were to look at a car and you're inspecting this vehicle for, if you're going to buy it, and you look at the oil, and the oil is just thick black. Well, you know that person probably wasn't changing their oil. So what's that going to tell you about the engine itself? It's probably taken some damage over time. Does that make sense? So ultimately, when people go, well, how do I know if this is a good machine? Well, I go, you got to plug it in and try it out. It's kind of like a car. How do you know if it's a good car from Craigslist? You don't. You got to go test drive it. It's the same concept. I mean, obviously, there's some key indications that can tell you if the car is screwed up. If the car's front end is completely damaged, then you'd be like, yeah, it probably has a bad engine. So you could do that with kind of like the pressure gauges on the machine, on the espresso machine. You go, oh, the pressure gauges are screwed up. Yeah, it probably has a bad engine. But really, what you need to do is you need to test drive the vehicle, and it's the same thing with the espresso machines. You really need to test drive the espresso machine. But the difficulty with test driving the espresso machine is you have to do two things. You have to provide it water, and you have to provide electricity. So if it's a 220 volt, you're probably going to be bringing a generator down there. They may have some kind of 220 plug-in at site, or you may be able to arrange to meet at a place where they have a 220 plug-in. But you're going to have to plug it into a 220 power outlet and get that thing fired up. And then the second thing is you're going to have to supply it water, which is just like a little 5-gallon water tank will do it. I mean, technically you can probably bring a couple of whatever single gallon jugs down and just put your line in. As long as it's gravity fed, you need your water above the espresso machine. I mean, you don't have to have it, but it's gonna that's gonna be the better way to do it is to place your water above the espresso machine so that you can artificially create the pressure of what city water would do. So anyhow, I mean, I just wanted to kind of make a short video as far as how to look into use espresso machines. Ultimately, if you're not really comfortable with this type of stuff, look into your city and see if anybody out there repairs espresso machines, and then ask them if they're willing to take a look at the machine for you. It's kind of like having a mechanic as a friend, and if you're willing to buy a car, then you take your mechanic friend to look at the car. It's the same concept, but you're just applying it to an espresso machine rather than a car. So that would probably be the thing, if you don't feel like real tech savvy or mechanically inclined, so to speak. Then I would just delegate that work out. Find yourself an espresso machine repairman and ask them to look at it. There's going to be a fee, $50, $100 or something like that. And it's just the cost of doing business, folks. I mean, I wish I can tell you that it's not. I wish I can tell you that we all have X-ray vision and we can look deep into the heart of espresso machines and determine if they're good machines or not. But unfortunately that's not the way it works. You got to put in a little bit of legwork and kind of find out if this machine is going to be worth your while. I think most of these machines that are running pretty cheap, they're probably sitting in someone's storage unit for X amount of years, and they get tired of them and they just want to sell them. I got an espresso machine in my storage unit right now. The difference is mine's drained and it's covered with I use a sleeping blanket, a sleeping bag to ensure it doesn't freeze over. But I don't think most espresso machine owners will take that time. So, just be wary, just be smart about it. Go in there expecting it to not work and have the machine prove you wrong, so to speak. And I think that's going to put you in a good route to getting yourself, a decent used espresso machine. And then the first thing after that is get that thing, refurbished, just like you would take a car and get a tune-up. You want to do the same thing with your espresso machine. Get the screens changed out, the gaskets changed out, and possibly do a descaling on the thing. That's going to cost you a couple $100, but then you're going to have a good espresso machine that you can use for the next 5 years without any issue. So Well, again, my name's Vince. The company I run is Green Joe Coffee Truck. Most of you guys are following me already, but if you're new to Green Joe Coffee Truck, I sell an ebook, a do-it-yourself on how to build coffee trucks on my website. And I also have a business plan template that I sell, for people that are low on finances, or maybe they just need a little bump in finances and they're trying to expand their business or something, bakers, that type of stuff, bakeries, excuse me, that type of stuff. So the business plan is there, and that's on my website as well. So we sell the ebook for $50, the business plans for $200. So you can find that on the website. Comments, questions, likes, all that good stuff helps out the YouTube channel. I try to get to the comments, guys. I try to get to the questions, but to be honest, I put my efforts to the people that are usually buying my ebook and my business plan. That's where I get the questions from, because they're paying my salary, so they get my business first, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, feel free to comments, but if you don't get an answer right away, then just please understand. My time's limited, and I do have to kind of pick and choose at this point, where I can focus my time. And if it's a question that's already answered in my ebook or my business plan, I'm not going to answer it on YouTube. I'm going to send you to that's why I wrote the book, so you can get the answer there. So anyhow, yeah, greenjoecoffeetruck.com is the name of the website. Hope this helps. Thanks so much.